Design is about always working with constraints and overcoming challenges. But if you're working on a project in a national park adjacent to a World Heritage Site, now that is next level. So Andrew, you must be a man who likes a challenge.
I guess I am, Mike. And there was certainly no shortage of challenges on this project.
Yeah, I bet. So you designed the lodges on the Three Capes Walk. What were some of the constraints?
Well, we're working in a national park, so you can imagine that brings a whole lot of constraints with it. It's a beautiful and very precious environment, and you need to make sure in the design that you do no damage to that. There's a lot of wildlife challenges. So would you believe eagles were one of our key things we had to think about. It's fully off-grid, so there's no power, no water, no sewer.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure all those things work.
And then of course there's the actual construction. So, I mean, I've got 48 questions just about that.
Yeah, well, I hope I have 48 answers.
I bet you do. So, Stephanie, you're one of the guides on these walks.
I sure am.
But you're also kind of like a chief storyteller, aren't you?
Yeah, storytelling's a huge part of our role as guides. We share a lot of stories about the flora and fauna. We also get a chance to share a lot of stories about the rich Indigenous history here in Tasmania, elements of the colonial history.
I suspect the walking track is your happy place.
Absolutely. The lodges are gorgeous. But I absolutely love being out on track. It's such a special part of the world.
Yeah.
There's so much to see. Every year it changes. Every trip it looks different and you notice new things. It's beautiful.
So Steph, I was told at school a long time ago that the Tasmanian Indigenous people were no more, that was a really sad part of history.
See, that's a misconception, and that is part of why our jobs as guides are so important, so that we can share the correct information and stories of our Indigenous population who are still here and thriving.
And an echidna. I've never seen one in the wild. She's so close. Heath, so what kind of people come on these walks?
Yeah, people that are after an adventure and like to be challenged, but not too much of an adventure, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think you're talking about people like me, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Like if I went on a bushwalk unsupervised, I'd arrive at my spot too late, pitch my tent in the dark, and be eating cold baked beans because I couldn't get my damn little burner going.
It can be challenging, and so we're here for people like you, Mike. Yeah, right. We make it easy for people like you that want to get out and enjoy the wilderness, but you want your comfort. So with the privilege of having the lodges in the national parks, we can actually provide the food, a hot shower, comfy mattress, a glass of local Tassie wine.
Yeah.
We wanted buildings that touch the ground very gently. So essentially, that's really important to us. It's a strong value within the company.
So it was a real eco-tourism brief.
Absolutely, yeah. The environments we operate in are really important to us, obviously in very remote places. So the services being off-grid, for example, the solar power all generated on site, capturing the rainwater, all the waste management's really important, removing that from site.
Well, Heath, you sound like a happy customer. Andrew's up ahead a little bit, so we can talk frankly. Did he do a good job?
To be honest, we think Andrew's nailed the brief, yeah, absolutely.
So, Steph, I recognise that site over there. That's famous.
Yeah, that's Port Arthur, operated from the 1830s to the 1870s. That's a huge part of Tasmanian convict history.
Yeah, so it's like a penal site.
It was a penal settlement from that time, yeah. And then do you see that island across to the left just here?
Oh, yeah.
So that is Isle of the Dead.
Oh, boy. I'm not sure I want to know why it's called that.
It is as bad as you think. Storybooks say that there are around 1,000 or more convicts buried on that little chunk of land in unmarked graves.
Oh.
And that was the sought-after job. That's what the storybooks say. That was the job of digging the graves on Isle of the Dead. Was one of the best jobs you could get at Port Arthur.
As a convict?
As a convict.
Wow, it gives you some idea how bad it was back at the main site.
Absolutely.
Andrew, these are not one of your lodges that you designed, are they?
No, Mike, these are the huts for Parks Tasmania. So they've been designed by a Tasmanian firm, Jaws Architects. Did a fantastic job.
But herein lies another challenge for you.
Yeah, one of the key parts of our brief was that we needed to differentiate from these. Tasmanian Walking Company's offering is different. It's a guided walk, there's food and drinks, and it's a different price point. So we needed to almost take the architecture and dial it up to try to create a more intense experience.
Still, they're pretty good for walking huts,
Yeah,
don't you think? They've really set the bar quite high.
They've done a great job.
Heath, I knew I could expect some views, but oh my goodness.
Yeah. You can't help but be blown away by the place, can you? It's primal stuff looking out there.
Yeah. Coming from, perhaps a sedate life in Melbourne or Sydney and being dropped into the Tasmanian wilderness for 4 days like this. Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a decision, actually. It's quite the step for some people.
It's a big deal for some, yeah. After you've had the journey through an environment like this and these sorts of conditions, you can't help but fall in love with the place. Like, it's amazing. It really has an effect on you.
Yeah. And another thing I didn't expect was to learn so much. Yeah. Steph, she's so knowledgeable.
The guides love the place, they're passionate about the place. And you know what, Mike? It really rubs off on the guests. And they go back as advocates for the parks. And we've set up the Tas Walking Co-Foundation because we're passionate about causes and projects related to conservation. And it really gives our guests an opportunity to support them as well.
I'm sorry, Heath, I am interested in what you're saying, but I can't stop looking that way.
It's amazing.
I tell you what, Andrew, I would have missed that side little track to come to the lodge if I wasn't being guided.
Well, that's exactly the idea, Mike. So we want the arrival to the lodge to be as discreet as possible. So that little track peels off at an angle.
Yeah. And I no doubt you've curated the whole approach.
Well, that's one of the opportunities when you do a building like this. You can also design the track that takes you to the building. So you can really choreograph that experience and bring the guest through to arrive at the perfect spot.
Wow, there it is. I'm feeling a gravitational pull.
So we can see the roof profile. We've used a last arc accent 35, which gives us a long span between members. So we use a lot less structural steel.
Yeah.
So we get that sense of lightness.
Well, speaking of materials, it's just occurred to me, how the hell did you get all this up here?
Well, believe it or not, everything here came in with helicopter.
No.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about constraints a lot.
That's a giant constraint right there.
Constraint number one. So we have to design the structure with the load capacity of the helicopter in mind.
Yeah.
But do you remember I mentioned eagles?
Yeah, yes.
So that's one of the other challenges that you find with helicopters. So believe it or not, on the peninsula there are 13 eagle nests. When you're using helicopter to move materials around, you need to adjust the flight path where the eagles' nests are. So it changes from season to season.
Oh, so the flight path is being changed every flight around the eagles.
Around the eagle, it's another...
Outrageous.
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew, this is nice.
Well, this is the main space. It's really the heart of the lodge.
Yeah, and very homely.
It sure is. We really thought about the design of this like a scaled up house. We've got the kitchen space, then the dining and the living space.
I can imagine pulling up a stool there and helping to peel some carrots.
Absolutely, and what that does, it really collapses the distinction between the guides and the guests.
Yeah.
So the social aspect is very important here.
Yeah, I felt that camaraderie just after day one, actually.
Yeah, well, it's one of the best parts of the experience.
But really, this is the main event.
It certainly is, yeah. So we're looking at Cape Rao. So this is the Three Capes walk. That's the third one. It's really what we hear about. But then you've got that distant view, but we can also open up these doors to really connect you to the landscape right here.
You're kidding. So these all just on both sides open right up?
Both sides, yeah.
Wow, on a still summer's day. It looks a bit blowy today.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to disturb Hannah. Man, it's blowing out there, but we're snug in here.
We certainly are.
I guess sometimes you want to break away from the group.
That's exactly what this space is for.
Now, another challenge was view lines, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had to make sure that nothing would be visible from the World Heritage Site. So the building up top, the main room, is set down below the ridgeline. And here, we've brought you down that stair. You're brought down into the valley. We want you to feel that sense of the valley down to the water.
And then what about the viewing deck? That must be challenging the view line.
Well, because of the fact that it's only a deck, there's no walls, there's no roof, so we can bring that deck right up high and get that sense of elevated views without breaching the view line.
Brilliant. Andrew, you drew inspiration for this from another Tasmanian Walking Company project.
That's right. I can remember in 1999, I was in architecture school, and there was this building on the cover of Architecture Australia, the Bay of Fires Lodge, which was designed by Ken Latona, who was the founder of the Tasmanian Walking Company.
Right, and he was an architect.
Yeah, he was. He was a very highly respected architect.
He was a real pioneer in the area of guided, accommodated bushwalks. He built and designed the huts on the overland track in the 80s. The overland track is like the iconic bushwalk in Australia.
Absolutely.
And then he saw other opportunity in Tassie, and hence the Friendly Beaches Lodge over at Freycinet and then Bay of Fires Lodge.
And now you guys have built on that legacy again with 3 capes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like everyone's got a story on a walk. What's your story?
I really wanted to challenge myself in nature, and I was really interested in this company and how they offer guides. And I felt that being out here in the wildness of nature, that I would want that support.
I've done walks all around the world, and I've never encountered anything like this before. It's just incredible. The wilds of Tasmania, blowing a gale outside. We had a beautiful sunny afternoon, and look at it now. It's just so invigorating sitting here. It's so cosy inside.
This is design that makes the incredible wildness of Tasmania accessible. It's my kind of wilderness experience. Excuse me, I think dinner is ready.